how you talk to yourself matters. Right now, I want you to imagine that there's two different individuals and they're in stop-and-go traffic during rush hour. Now, one person, they're sitting there and they're saying how I can't stand this. I've got to be out of here. Why did I ever want to do this commute? This is killing me. What that person is feeling is a lot of anxiety, anger, and frustration. But then there's someone else. There's another individual who's in the same situation. But they have the opportunity to be laid back, relax, enjoy the ride because they're listening to something that they're excited to listen to, something that's motivating, some music that they absolutely love. Could be a podcast. It doesn't matter. It's something that they enjoy. And they think to themselves, I might as well just relax and adjust to this pace of the traffic. They can also think, I can just unwind by doing some deep breathing. And they feel this sense of calmness, of acceptance. Now, both of these situations are exactly the same. They're still in the stop-and-go traffic during rush hour. But the feelings in response to the situation are vastly different because of their internal self-talk, what they are saying to themselves. The truth is, what we say to ourselves in response to a particular situation or event, that mainly determines our moods and our feelings. Often we say it quickly or automatically that we don't even notice it, and we get the impression that the external situation makes us feel that way. But it's really our interpretation and our thoughts about what's happening that's forming this basis of how we feel. So you have the external events, and now you have how you interpret these events, your self-talk. And next, you're going to have the feelings, how you're going to react. In short, you are largely responsible for your feelings. This is profound and very important for you to understand. It is much easier to blame the way you feel on something or someone outside of yourself than to take responsibility for your reactions. Yet it's through your willingness to accept that responsibility that you can begin to take charge and then have mastery over your life. This realization is mostly responsible for how you feel is empowering once you fully accept it. It's one of the most important keys to living a happy, effective, anxiety-free life. So you have individuals who suffer from anxiety and their self-talk. So when people who suffer from a phobia, panic attack, general anxiety, are especially prone to engage in negative self-talk. Anxiety can be generated on the spur of a moment by repeatedly making statements to yourself. What if? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if statements to yourself. They manufacture this anxiety in yourself. Well, what if I have a panic attack? What if I can't handle this? What will other people think of me? What if they don't like me? The real change will occur when you go from the what if statements and change them to so what. These are just thoughts. I can handle this. I can breathe, let go, and relax. You see, I want you to consider some basic facts about self-talk. Following these facts is a discussion of the different types of self-defeating inner monologues that we do. Self-talk is usually automatic. You don't even notice it, but it affects your moods and your feelings. You react without noticing what you told yourself right before you reacted. Often, when you just relax, take a step back, examine what you've been telling yourself, then you can make a connection between your self-talk and your feelings. What is important is that you can learn to slow down and take note of your negative inner talk. One short word or image that you happen to think of contains a whole series of thoughts, memories, and associations. Let's think, for example, that your heart starts to beat faster when you say to yourself, "Oh no!" In that moment, that "oh no" is a whole series of associations with the fears of panic, the memories, what happened the last panic attack, or the last time you had these racing thoughts. Right now, you just need to identify this self-talk. You need to find out what is the starting word, what root word or words gets your mind to thinking these thoughts. Anxious self-talk is typically irrational, but it always sounds like the truth. What if thinking may lead you to expect the worst possible outcome in any given situation, the one that is highly unlikely to occur. But because the association takes place so quickly and it goes unchallenged and unquestioned, it's hard to evaluate its validity. So you just accept it as truth. When you have this negative self-talk, you tell yourself that a situation such as a freeway is dangerous, and so you avoid it. By continually avoiding it, you are reinforcing that it's dangerous. You may even project images of catastrophic events happening about that situation. Your anxious talk leads to avoidance. Avoidance then leads to self-talk that's anxious, nervous, scared. And then around and round the cycle goes. Avoidance, anxious self-talk, avoidance. Self-talk can initiate or even aggravate a panic attack. You see, a panic attack, it can start off with these increasing physiological arousal, such as more rapid heartbeat, tightness in the chest, or even sweaty palms. Biologically, this is the body's natural response to stress, the fight or flight response. And so normally we experience this when we perceive threat or danger. There is nothing inherently abnormal or dangerous about it, yet these symptoms can remind you of a previous panic attack. Instead of allowing your body's physiological reaction to rise, peak, and subside on its own, you scare yourself into considering more intense panic attack with really scary talk like, "Oh no, this is happening again? Oh, what happens if I lose control? Oh, I have to get out of here right now. Oh, I'm going to fight this and make it go away." The scare talk aggravates the initial physical symptom, which in turn elicits further scare talk. A severe panic attack might even be rendered much less intense if you make reassuring statements to yourself at the very first symptom. I can accept what's happening even though it's uncomfortable. I'll let my body just do its thing because this will pass. This is just a burst of adrenaline that can be metabolized, and it will pass in a few minutes. And I've gotten through this before, and I will this time also. Negative self-talk is also a series of bad habits. See, you weren't born with the predisposition to fearful self-talk. You learn to think that way. Just like you replace unhealthy behaviors, such as smoking, drinking excessive amounts of alcohol, with more positive health-promoting behaviors. You can replace unhealthy thinking with more positive, supportive mental habits. Just bear in mind that this acquisition of positive mental habits takes the same persistence and practice required for learning new behaviors. In hypnosis, we can help that faster. Now, we all have parts to play. And I want you to think about the part that you grew up with. Were you the worrier, the critic, the victim, or the perfectionist? So the worrier, that really promotes anxiety. This is usually one of the strongest super personalities in people who are prone to anxiety. The worrier creates anxiety by imagining the worst case scenario. It scares you with fantasies of disasters or catastrophes when you imagine confronting something you fear. It also aggravates panic by reacting to your first physical symptom of a panic attack. The worrier promotes your fear to what is happening is dangerous or embarrassing. In short, the worrier dominates your mind. It anticipates the worst. It overestimates the odds of something being bad. The worrier is always vigilant, watching with unease, apprehension for the small symptoms that something terrible is about to happen. Their favorite expression is, "What if?" Let's just think about this for a minute. A typical dialogue that a worrier might have is, "Oh no, my heart's starting to beat faster. My palms are sweating. But what if I have a panic and I lose complete control of myself? What if I'm stammering in the middle of my speech? What if they see me shaking?" These what if statements take over the mind of the worrier. But maybe you might be the critic. This critic, they promote low self-esteem. The critic is the part of you that's consistently judging and evaluating your behavior. It tends to point out all of your flaws and limitations whenever possible. It jumps on any mistake that you make to remind you that you are a failure. The critic, they generate anxiety by putting you down for not being able to handle your panic attacks, for not being able to place yourself in a situation where you can be your best. It also likes to compare you to others, usually seeing them coming out favorably. It tends to ignore your positive qualities and emphasizes your weakness and inadequacies. The critic might be that voice of your mother or father or that dreaded teacher or anyone who's wounded you in the past. Their favorite expressions would be, "That was stupid. What a disappointment you are." The typical critic self-talk would be, "You're so stupid. You can't get anything right. Why are you always this way? You could have done better." See, the critic holds negative self-beliefs, such as, "I'm inferior to others and I'm not worth much. I'm weak. I should be stronger." Or inherently, "What is wrong with me?" And then you have the victim. The victim promotes depression. The victim is the part of you that feels helpless and hopeless. It generates anxiety by telling you that you're not making any progress, that your condition is incurable, and that the road is too long and too steep for you to make any real recovery. The victim also plays a major role in creating this depression. The victim believes that there's something inherently wrong with them. You are deprived, defected, unworthy. You are not enough. The victim always perceives unsurmountable obstacles between them and their goal. Their favorite expression will be, "I can't. I'll never be able to do that." The victim looks like this, "I'll never be able to do that, so what's the point of even trying? I feel physically drained today, so why bother doing anything? Maybe I could have done that 10 years ago, but now it's too late." You see, the victim holds such negative self-beliefs as, "I'm hopeless. I've had this problem too long, it will never go away. And I've tried everything. Nothing is ever going to work." And here's one that so many of us are, the perfectionist. See, the perfectionist promotes chronic stress and burnout. The perfectionist is closely related to the critic, but it's less putting you down, and it goads you to be better. It generates anxiety by constantly telling you that your efforts aren't good enough and that you should work harder. You should always have everything under control. You should be competent, should always be pleasing, always be X, Y, Z, whatever you want to put in this place. The perfectionist is the hard driving part of you that wants to be the best and is intolerant of mistakes or setbacks. The perfectionist has a tendency to try to convince you that your self-worth is dependent on something outside of yourself, such as money and status, acceptance by others, being loved, or your ability to please, and how nice you are to others, regardless of what they do. The perfectionist isn't convinced by any notions of inherent self-worth, but instead pushes into a stress, exhaustion, and burnout, trying to pursue these goals. It's like ignoring all the warning signals from your body. The perfectionist says, "I should, I have to, I must." The perfectionist may even provide instruction as, "I should always be on top of things. I should always be considerate and unselfish. I should always be pleasant and nice. I have to get that job. I have to make this amount of money. If I don't make this amount of money, I'm not worthy." The most effective way to deal with negative self-talk is to counter it with positive, supportive statements. So right now, I want you to go ahead and get a piece of paper out. Pause the recording, get your pen and paper, because I want you to write down the negative self-talk that you do on a daily basis. Just start with 10. 10 things that you know you say every day to yourself. Now I want you to write positive statements that directly refute or invalidate your negative self-talk. Doing this will take some practice. If you choose to do this with hypnosis, you will gain the knowledge faster and make it a habit faster. But if you choose to do it without hypnosis, this needs to be a daily practice for 63 days. Finding your negative talk and then finding positive statements that directly refute and invalidate your negative talk. Sometimes countering comes naturally and easy. You're ready and willing to substitute positive, reasonable statements of truth for the ones that have been causing you anxiety and distress. You're more than ready to relinquish these negative mental habits that aren't serving you anymore. Now, if you have some negative self-talk that's just not that easy to switch over, find a positive statement to say, I want you to ask yourself these questions for those beliefs. What is the evidence for this? Is this always true? Has this been true in the past? And what are the odds of this really happening or truly being real? Are you looking at the whole picture? And what is the very worst possible thing that could happen? How bad can it really be? And what would you do if the worst did happen? So I'm going to teach you a simple mind trick. This trick is going to lie to your mind so that you can get the results that you want. What you're going to do is when you feel anxious and you start telling yourself that you have anxiety, instead I want you to say, I am feeling excited. This excites me. This causes me excitement because the same exact physiological symptoms happen in your body when you're excited as when you are anxious. The palms sweat, the heart rate goes up. You feel butterflies in your stomach. So switch the word to excitement. I'm excited to do this. This makes me excited. And as you lie to your mind about the situation, you're going to notice that your emotions, your mood will go in alignment with this excitement. You'll start to feel happier, joy, peace even can fall over you when you change from anxiety to excitement. Well, thank you so much for joining me and learning how you can use self-talk to calm your anxiety, to live the life that you want. And remember, you are enough exactly how you are. And everything that you want is available to you. Please like, share, and comment. I look forward to the next time.